going to give us an 8 to 10 or longer head tip. Yeah. And the name of the speech is How I Create and Inhabit a Speech. How I Create and Inhabit a Speech. Andrew Salisbury.
Thank you, sir. How I create and inhabit a speech. Imagine, if you will, you're standing in front of 1,000 people. It's your keynote address. You've been introduced beautifully. You look out at the audience, ready to start your speech. You got nothing. Instead, the theme song to the Bad Boys movie starts to play in your head. Bad boys, what you gonna do when they come for you? Great theme song, not actually part of the speech. In the audience, your boss's boss, and his boss, customers, analysts, judges all. You got nothing. What you gonna do? Homer, 2,800 years ago, was unable to read and write, and yet he memorized a 4,000-verse Iliad and another 5,000-verse Odyssey. He had a system. You need a system. System should be comfortable, reliable, resilient to problems. What did Homer do? How do you memorize 4,000 verses? In Greek, no less. He used a technique called the memory palace. He visualized the palace of the king of Minoa. It was enormous, full of statues and arts. He would visually, in his head, walk through the palace, placing verses on statues, paintings, furniture. Tie that verse to a physical thing so that you can walk through the rooms and see the verses and pull them out. You can also then start in the middle of the palace if you need to start in the middle of the poem. Beautifully done. I had a big shortage of palaces to work with. So instead, I used my body. My body becomes the memory palace. Top of my head, title of the speech. How do I create and inhabit a speech? My eyes, I look out and I see the change that I want to have in the audience when I'm done. In this case, I want each of you to think about your system. How do I create a speech? Not my system, but your system. What works for you to allow you to take a blow, if you would, and move on. So the speech starts at the top, flows all the way through the feet. My shoulders and arms become the strong structure of the speech, attaching pieces, Alan, wake up, attaching pieces of the speech to parts of my body as I move through. Every speech, the same structure. Every time, it becomes reproducible. You get to the heart. You're all still wondering, what happened with the bad boys? There I am, in front of the keynote speech. I breathe. I go to the part I need. My mouth, what was the opening line of the speech? Out it starts to flow. If something bad happens, a customer in the middle of a presentation asks you a difficult question, throws you completely off track, what you gonna do? Go back to the last piece that you had, move on to the next piece. Everything is recorded in your body in this system that lets you pick up and move forward. with the speech. So the heart becomes something emotional that I use to tie you to the speech. In this case, that fear standing in front of the keynote audience was an emotional hook that I wanted you on. Next, we drop down to the stomach. What's the filling goodies that I'm going to leave you with during the speech? How do I actually create a speech? My system is to sit in Starbucks or a nice coffee shop. Don't know why, I just find that a nice atmosphere for doing it. Think about what am I trying to do with this particular speech? And I begin to write out 3x5 cards, a flurry of them, quotes, jokes, facts. Bring it all together. And I want to end up with a pack of cards. Looks kind of like this with a rubber band on it. And I can then take this pack of cards, check it out, pass it around. This is my icebreaker speech from last year. It's been used probably a dozen times. It gets evolved each time I use it. This one's been done probably 24 times. Taught a class in how to do this memory palace technique. The cards actually have a label on them that say mouth, eyes, shoulder, so that they're positioned within the system. Do it. If you don't have an emotional core, you don't have any heart to your speech, it's going to fall flat. If you don't have some filling, probably not a very good speech. So I generate all these 3x5 cards, and then I sit there trying to figure out where does this fit in my scheme. 2/3 of the cards discarded to the side. But you have the core there that works. And most importantly, I can pick up the deck of cards years later, go through the process, looking at the cards associated with pieces. Look at the card associated with a piece. Boom, be ready to give a speech. At one point, I had 400 or 500 of these decks. Now, the technical ones or the product ones, sure, they got tossed. Most of those products either were no good or became obsolete in a short period of time. Others, really useful. Pull the speech out, be able to give it on the fly. Do you have a system like this? I guarantee you that handwriting it out and trying to memorize it by force is a tough and unreliable system. To flow down, get to your legs. What are the solid pieces that I want you to go away with? In this case, think about your system. Think about the fact that Alan is going to yawn in the middle of your speech. Carol is going to cough. The garbage truck is about to back up. How resilient is your speech so that you can keep going regardless? You need to be able to take a hit, keep going. It's going to happen. You get to the knees. I like to give a little bend at the end. Give it a little something that's going to change the direction. That's the part where I call upon you to develop your own system. Build something that works for you, not my system, but your system, and use it over and over again as you write and deliver speeches so that it becomes resilient and comfortable for you to do it. Finally, your feet. This is the end of the speech, the call to action. I like to use a quote. In this case, James Cleary, Atomic Habits. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. Thank you. So we've got a minute or two. I know all of you amateurs out there are looking to ask questions, but please, if there are any questions, certainly entertain them. If not, I'll happily sit down. Questions, comments, abuse? Thank you.